What's going on, folks? Today we're outside of Stu's garage, and I'm currently sitting inside of the BMW 650i, and today what we're going to be doing is updating the radio entertainment system slash computer system, onboard diagnostics, all of that stuff in the BMW 650. So first off, what I wanted to say is the BMW 650, my model is in 09. This car came out in 04. The reason I like this car so much is because this car came out like 14 years ago, and it's managed to stay current as far as styling goes, even up to, you know, compared to today's models. I've added a couple of enhancements to this car, as far as I've got an updated front bumper on this car, custom headlights, in order to keep this car looking more up to date as far as the styling cues go. One of the major gripes that I had as far as this car being outdated is the navigation system slash entertainment system. So if you have a BMW, and that's probably why you're watching this video, you already know about this system. This is what's called the CCC iDrive system. Now, with this being a 2009 model, I do have the updated controller, but it's still the same system that has the big silver controller. I just have a few other buttons for shortcuts. Now, I'm not sure exactly how those buttons are going to work out once I do the update, but it still looks cooler anyways, and it's real helpful on this system. But anyways, you know, as far as the interface, you know, this is what my radio interface looks like. Over here you can see this side screen is always up for whatever you decide to put on it. I have the maps on there, but that's how the maps look. It's, you know, it's really basic, and to me it just doesn't really match what this car does. And it's definitely out of date compared to some of the newer BMWs. So, you know, this is, like I said, this is the navigation screen. These are the options that you get. And then when you go on the map, you get double maps there, which to me is stupid because it's really only using this portion of the screen. And you know, these are your various options. The maps are really out of date. So I'm going to be installing the Android system, which is going to let me use Waze, or their system, which is called iGo, or I can use Google Maps, or really anything that runs on Android. So you know, without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the new system. We're going to go ahead and pull that out the box. Alright, so here's the box that it comes in. It's called AVIN. That's the name of the maker of this system. Kind of looks like the Alpine logo in my opinion. But even though it's called AVIN, this is really just a, I think it's just a generic Android system, because I actually found an identical setup to this. It was about the same price, so I don't really remember the name. But you know, it's a company that comes from China, and you know, they do this kind of stuff in China. But you know, sometimes you get junk from China, sometimes you get really cool stuff. And in my opinion, this goes in the cool stuff category. And you'll kind of see how it works once it's all installed. And besides, it's Android anyway, so as long as it works and it's Android, you know, with the Android phones and all of that stuff, you already know how Android works. So anyways, this system is called AVIN. I've already pulled everything out of the box. I've got it on the table here. So what you have here is your new iDrive screen, or whatever you want to call it. I believe this is the whole Android unit, and basically the brains of the operation. Everything is in there. Your factory CIC or CCC will remain inside the car, and that will actually still be active, so you'll have all of your native functions. But with this system, you'll be able to basically incorporate any features that you want. If your car doesn't have the TPMS, you can buy the TPMS module for this. You can add all of that stuff in. My car has the TPMS already, so I can stick with the TPMS system that I already have. So anyways, you know, it comes with the this harness basically splices the AVIN unit into the factory system here. We'll go over, you know, all of the connections and stuff that has once we're doing the install. What we have here is the audio splitter. So what this system does is it actually pushes audio to your factory head unit through your auxiliary port. So you do have to have an auxiliary port. And like I was showing you with my car being a 2009, I have an auxiliary port and a USB port already built in. Some of the older models don't have an auxiliary port, and if you don't have that, there's some other things that you're going to have to do, which I'm not really going to cover in this video because I've never had to do it and I don't want to get into that. But luckily I have the auxiliary port and the USB port, which I don't believe that I'll be needing to use the USB port in my car. So anyways, we have the auxiliary cord and splitter, which will allow me to use the sound from here and use sound from an external audio source. It comes with, this is an add-on, it comes with a micro SD card with the iGo map software on it. And one thing that was I had to figure out for myself was where to put the SD card. So as you can see, my micro SD card is not in there. It actually goes into this tiny little slot here on the side, which you can barely see. So the SD card is already in there. Next up, you have your GPS splitter cable. This is another add-on that I added onto it. You don't need this, but what this enables you to do is use the built-in GPS antenna that's already in your car. They provide you with a GPS antenna, but I'm not going to need this, and why would you install extra hardware that you don't need when you could just put a splitter cable in there? So now I'll be able to use my factory GPS or the iGo software. This microphone actually came out of the Mustang because I don't even use the radio in that car, and I didn't want to pay for an extra microphone when I already had one. I believe this should work because all of these connections are basically like universal type connections. So I'll be using the microphone. Even if your car has a microphone, you will still need this unit because the Android stuff runs separately from the native stuff in your car. So even though it'll switch back and forth between microphones, you won't necessarily need to know when it's doing. But if you don't buy the microphone and certain things don't work, you're not going to understand why. So if you plan on using the voice stuff, go ahead and get yourself a microphone. Right here, you can't see it because I didn't take it out yet, but this is a Wi-Fi module, a Wi-Fi OBD module, and this is another add-on that I added to it just because I'm going to be able to see, you know, what the engine is doing and stuff from this display using the Torque app. I don't need it, but I figured it'd be cool to have, and you know, so I added it on. Right here we have various AV cables. I don't exactly know what these are for. I believe this is for like your backup camera, or if you have a dash cam, this will allow that to be integrated into that, so you can run your dash cam software on there. And then what we have here is basically a USB splitter. So this is a direct route into this unit for USB cables. Now one thing that I noticed about this is this cable is not very long. I don't know where I'm gonna run this. I'd like to have everything in my center console, but I don't think these are gonna reach to the center console. So I may stash these and get a USB cable extender later on so I can have everything in my center console like it already is. But this is not an add-on, this comes with it. Now one thing I did not buy was the Apple CarPlay add-on, and you can buy those on eBay and stuff like that. I'm not sure if the Android Auto needs that or not, so I'll figure that out later once I start using this, but I can always put that in later. All you have to do is just plug that into here, and obviously these have to be in an accessible location. So we're not really going to go through the functionality of the system today. We're just going to get it in there, make sure it works, and you're going to get to see what it looks like. Alright, so we're back in the car now. We're getting ready to get started on this install. Before I get started, I just wanted to let you know AVIN USA does have a lot of videos on their website for installations on all the models they sell theirs for. This is an e63 6 Series BMW. Their install video shows your e65 series, which is very similar, but it's not quite the same. Also want to give a shout out to 4x4 Shop Canada, who actually did this on an e63 car, and their video is also very good as well. So if you have an e63, go ahead and watch both videos. I believe this is actually the same unit that goes into an e90. So if you're just looking for more information, you can look for e90 videos also. And if you look inside of there, you can see that there are 2 screws, and they are Torx bits. I don't remember the size, but if you have Torx bits, you'll be able to figure out it's a really small one. And as you can see, I've got it here on my ratchet because no screwdriver is going to be able to fit up in there. So the way you do that is you unscrew those, you flip the screen face down, and then it should slide out and you'll be able to unplug it. Alright, we've got the unit pulled out. I went ahead and threw a towel up here to keep from scratching things up on my dashboard. and looks like the cables are held in place by these little clips. So we're going to unclip these clips, and I believe the only thing that's plugged in, okay, we got 2 plugs. And by the way, I haven't disabled the battery or anything like that. Nobody else did it in their installs. I know you would normally do that, but we're gonna have to test this thing once it's all plugged in before we uninstall it. So I do believe this is actually safe to do with your battery still in the car. So it's very difficult to do this stuff with one hand holding the camera, so I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect these wires, and then you'll see where I'm at after that. Okay, so this plug here just pulls straight out. It's a little bit tough because it's a really tight fit. This plug here has a little tab. You push down on the tab, and then this little thing releases it, and it slides out like so. And now the screen is loose. Alright, I think I've done the hardest part of this whole install, which is removing this button, and it actually turned out not to be that hard. One of the videos that I saw, they actually pried up on this trim here and they pushed the button out from the back, which is completely unnecessary. What I did is I just took this little flathead and I went right underneath the button. It doesn't take very much pressure at all, and you can actually pry this button out. Just do it very carefully. As you can see, I've got tape here to keep from scratching up my trim, and this button will actually pop out fairly easily. So once you do that, you can actually unplug this button here, and there's a screw inside of there right here, which you can't see. You unscrew that, and then everything's going to start to come apart. Next up, you're going to go ahead and pop this vent out. Takes a little bit of elbow grease to get this thing out of here, but it does pull straight out. So set that to the side, and then you're going to be again working on all of your screws that you see up here. That's pretty much self-explanatory, especially if you've ever disassembled a dash before. So we're going to go ahead and pop all of these screws loose. Alright, once you got this loose, you want to go ahead and release all of your cables. Pretty much, you know, these cables here, they have these slides on them that go back. This one right here, it looks like you just pull that straight out. This one here, you push down on the slide. See, it's really difficult to do with one hand, but there we go. Got it with one hand. Yeah, can't do it with one hand, but this same thing over here. So next up, we're going to pull out the actual CCC unit, and this is the brains of the operation. Pretty sure I wasn't supposed to take that off, but that's alright, we're going to keep moving. So it looks like we've got maybe 4 more screws to get to. Alright, so this is the CIC/DVD unit coming out, and it's a very tight fit. Make sure you clear your shifter, and we're going to go ahead and unplug this thing. And there's a couple of things that you're going to want to take note of back here. The back of your CCC or CIC unit, which I would assume will look the same. You've got your GPS cable here, which we're going to add the splice to. We have, I believe this is an optical cable. This is what they say that it is. This is the unit that actually sends your video signal, so you're actually going to have to unplug this. You have the main plug here, which splices in with the big plug that I showed you before. And looks like we've also got some plugs over here. I think this is your radio antenna, and I'm not really sure what this is. So all of this needs to be unplugged. Alright, now that you've got your computer unit removed, I actually went ahead and put the faceplate back on since that wasn't supposed to come off in the first place. You're going to see this fat plug here, this wire here that has the green wire, and this fat black wire over it. You're going to have to pop that loose because that's going to have to go into your splitter, which I'll show you in just a minute. And the way you get that wire out is you got that little tab there. You have to pop that tab and this will slide out. The other things you're going to have to do, these wires are loomed together with tape just like that, and you're going to have to pop that tape loose. in order to basically give yourself more space, because it looks like you have a lot of space, but it's a tight fit, and you're going to need that flexibility to be able to run your wires. Alright, now you're going to go ahead and grab your splitter wire, or your main wiring harness that you have in your box, and you're going to take the end that matches what's in your dash. Even though they look slightly different, this end is now going to go into your CIC unit. Make sure you take this optical wire here and plug that back into here, into the same slot. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and then we're going to plug this into the CCC unit. Okay, so we've got the main wiring harness partially connected up. Before we go ahead and connect it back to the CCC, I wanted to show you a couple of things. I went ahead, and this is the audio output wire. So this wire carries all the signals from this unit here. I went ahead and ran this down through the trim, and it's just sticking out right here at the bottom of my trim. That way, once it's all installed, I'll be able to actually run this through the center console into my auxiliary switch, which is here. Not switch, my auxiliary port, which is here. Not worried about doing it at this moment, but I wanted to go ahead and run that because I'm not going to be able to do that once this is all back together. The other thing is there are two other cables on here. One says X1 key and one says CAN C. I don't believe that these are being used, so I'm just going to tape these off just so that they don't make electrical connections somewhere else. And I don't believe I'm going to use those. So this is the audio output, which I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And once that's all done, I'm going to take the long end of this wire and run this all the way up to the top section as far back as I can, because this right here is going to connect to the new monitor. Okay, last thing before I go ahead and put the CCC unit back in, I went ahead and I pushed all the wiring up to the top. The easiest thing for you to do is to go behind the bracket on this side, up this side, let the little fuse box sit here by the vent, and push your cable up through here. Just keep in mind the old monitor cable is not going to be used anymore, so you don't have to worry about that, but the rest of the cables up top are going to be used. And the last thing is to go ahead and connect your GPS splitter, because that's the only way it's going to reach the CCC unit and your monitor, because you have two different GPSs now, and you're going to want to go ahead and run this cable to the top as well. Alright, we've got the unit back in there, and that's literally the easiest I've ever put a unit back in for a BMW with aftermarket wires, because usually the fit is extremely tight and you just can't fit that stuff back in. So pretty much from here, you plug everything back in just the way that it was, with the exception of this wire up here at the top for the old screen. That's the black and gray wire, or black and gray plug. So we're going to go ahead and connect all of this stuff up and give it a test fire. Alright, so as you can see, the installation is done. The iDrive controller is working, so I can do things with that. And flip through the menus and everything. Like I said, it works in conjunction with your native system. So if you go here to car info, it switches back to the native system. As you can see, the resolution is way off. There's a way to fix that in the configurations, and this thing is not really configured properly right now, so I have to go into the configurations and change some things. Also to note, I've got my audio cable hooked up and I'm not hearing any audio, so plug and play, I would say, I don't know, maybe about 80 or 90% plug and play, because I still have to do a little bit of messing with this thing to get it to work properly. But so far I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, obviously if it works I'm going to be 100% satisfied, but you know, I'm pretty technical when it comes to things. I can figure out how to get this thing working as long as everything is doing what it's supposed to do. So I've seen people do this installation in real time in about 10 minutes. And I'm showing you the old system right now because I don't know how to get back to the new system. But yeah, more stuff I have to figure out. But anyways, I don't know. I probably could have done this in about 20 minutes if I hadn't been doing video. I would say realistically, you know, if you have experience putting in aftermarket head units and everything, it's probably similar to, you know, that install, if not easier. The only difference is all the plugs are different and you're not necessarily going to recognize what you're connecting and disconnecting. But That's pretty much it for the install. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll check you out next time.